I think with every aquarist, there was a moment where you thought to yourself, should I have an aquarium? I know I did, and that's what I want to talk about today. Should you have one? If you're new to this channel, you're just looking to get into this hobby, then this is the video for you, because we're going to talk about what are the considerations for getting an aquarium and having one of these beautiful scenes in your home. And it's not just about should you, but why would you, right? Come with me. One of the things that we know to be true about aquariums is studies show that they lower heart rate, they reduce anxiety, they lower blood pressure. And you can see that if you could just sit and watch these little guys swim around in a beautiful scene like this, you can believe that that's true, right? I know it is for me. And what's more than that, when you have an aquarium, you also have pets. You have fish. You have these guys that depend on you that you can take care of and then you can create these beautiful scenes with. If you're the type of person that has a propensity for DIY, you love to be creative, you like to work with your hands, you like to be proud of things that you make, then aquariums are definitely for you. So now we know why we want one, but let's talk about should you have one. And one of the first things that I think you should consider is the time. When it comes to aquariums, most of them are going to depend on, or most of the time you spend is going to depend on size, the type of fish you keep, what you do with the aquarium. But let me talk to you about a little bit of the basic expectations. Outside of around 1 hour per week on average, when it comes to a lot of aquariums, you can take a look at an aquarium like this. It's gonna be pretty simple. There's not a lot going on here. It's really cool. But there's not plants that I'm taking care of. There's only one fish. This aquarium's gonna take me 30 minutes a week to take care of. Not a big deal. The thing that might surprise you though, is an aquarium like this, big aquarium, currently growing in some hair grass here on the bottom. This aquarium takes me literally no time a week to take care of, because the bigger the aquarium, the less problems you typically have, because the problems that can arise in aquariums, like imbalances in nutrients and water parameters, those can be actually more impactful in a smaller amount of water, right? It makes sense. So when you think about what type of aquarium you might want to have, think about the amount of time that you're willing to put into it and dedication that you have to do that. Do you travel a lot? Things like that. And then beyond that, think about, well, what kind of fish do I want to keep? So when it comes to the type of fish you want to keep, there's a lot of considerations, and it's a huge, important thing to think about. Not only because you want to make sure that you're prepared for whatever that fish needs to be safe and healthy, but there's a lot that goes into the tank size, the location, the lighting, what you put in the tank, all of those things. And it really starts with which fish do you want? Now there's a couple considerations. You could have a single fish, like in this case. You got one beta in here, he's hanging out, right? I've got another beta right over here. So you've got a single fish situation. You could come over to a situation like this. And this is a little bit more community. And what community means is I want to have different types of fish that I want to look at. I don't want to just look at only one kind or even only one fish. That's called a community tank, right? Here's another version of that. All these little guys swimming around. And community tanks are fun because you can get schooling there. You can actually buy fish that are really known for schooling. If you check this out, these little rummy-nosed tetras right here, they're constantly in a school. So they're always cruising around, and I bought them for that reason. So what's a logical first step? I think it's go to a fish store near you, all right? Do some research online too, but you can go to a fish store and watch these fish swim around in person. Get some ideas about which ones you like looking at, and then write down their names. You can talk to somebody there, but also go home, do your research, and find out what it takes to take care of them, what tank size you need, the feeding, the other requirements, and then you'll know if you're ready for that specific species. All right, so the next consideration is tank size. And this might seem like an easy tank. And listen, it's not that hard, but the reality is, like I said before, the smaller tanks don't always mean the easier, because there are water parameter and other issues that can arise in a smaller tank and happen quicker than they would in a larger tank. But what's nice about a smaller tank is where you can put it, right? This is going to be a desktop tank or a small stand or a countertop or that sort of thing. So that's what's nice. But this is a 7-gallon tank, just to give you an idea. And I actually wouldn't start under 10 gallons. That would be my advice for some of the reasons that I've already said. So let me tell you what I would do instead. Rather than that, I would start over here with a 20-gallon tank. I like 20 gallons as a starter. You've got enough water in there to where the water parameters aren't going to do anything too crazy on you, cause you some headaches. Also, you've got enough room to do a lot of really cool creative stuff. As you can see here, this is a non-planted, simple setup, and I think it's super cool. But you could do a beautiful aquascape in here if you wanted to. You could start with this and change it into something else, right? These are all the things that you can consider. When it comes to the largest tank that I would do, if you're getting started in the hobby, it would be 30 gallons. I wouldn't do anything bigger than this just yet, but this is what a 30-gallon tank looks like. Now, when it comes to the space it takes up, it sounds big, but listen, this is only about a 24 to 26 inch footprint. So you can put a sizable tank that gives you a lot of room. There's both equivalent 30-gallon tanks, different scapes in here. You can do a lot of really cool stuff in this size. Now, let me take you back over here to this long tank. Now, a long tank, again, I talked about earlier, can seem like it's super big, but the reality is this is about half the gallonage of that 20 that I was talking about before. But when it comes to location, right, you've got to think this is now about 36 inches of space, footprint-wise, that this is taking up. Now, the other thing when it comes to your tanks and tank size is which tanks can you put on a stand that's dedicated for the tank, and which tanks can you do something a little bit, more interesting with, if you will. All right, so the other thing I would consider is if you're getting up to 30 gallons, you're going to definitely want to have a dedicated fish tank stand that's built to hold that kind of weight. You've got about 8 pounds per gallon of water that's sitting on top of something, right? So that's 240 pounds of water right here. That's before you get into the weight of the rock and the wood and the substrate, right? You could have 300 pounds sitting right here, no problem. You want to make sure that you've got something sturdy and level and safe. You can see here, I've got this on a base that I got on Amazon. And I DIY'd this thing to work for this fish tank by just drilling some holes in it for the tubing and that sort of thing. So you can have the freedom when you have a gallonage around this size to do some of those types of things and really create kind of a cool design aesthetic in your house with a piece of furniture. But this is holding 96 pounds of water, right? Not hundreds of pounds of water. So I can get away with something like this on a tank like that. Tank location in your home is a huge consideration before you get one. Why am I standing here like this with this huge window? Because I want to show you that in our studio, we have these curtains because you can't have direct sunlight beaming in on your fish tank, okay? So when you think about location in your home, think about where are my windows? Am I gonna have direct sunlight bouncing right into this glass, which is going to be algae creating, and it's not gonna be something that you can control, right? It's the sun. The reason why we have our lights on here is because we can control exactly what the intensity is, exactly how much time that they're gonna be on. You can't do that if you have sunlight coming through the window, and that's gonna cause you some problems. So look around in your home, think about where can I put this thing based upon the footprint, based upon that weight, based upon the height, right? But also, do I have direct sunlight coming in from windows? The other thing is doors. If you live in a climate like I do here in Minnesota, I've got to be careful. You open a door to let the dog out a few times a day, you're letting that ice cold air in. If you have the fish tank sitting right there, you're gonna have potentially a little bit of a harder time maintaining that water temperature that's safe for the fish. So keep that in mind as far as location's concerned. The other thing is, you've got a tank like this in your house, you wanna look at it. Don't, go throw the tank in the basement because there's no door and there's no windows, but then you're gonna only walk down there to feed it and none of your friends or your family are gonna be able to appreciate it. That's probably not gonna bring you the joy for why you got into it in the first place. And when it comes to looking for the right place in your house, you wanna make sure you have the ability to keep your tank level. It's super important when it comes to filling it, you don't have any spills, and you don't also put any undue pressure on the glass. A lot of tanks are gonna come with leveling mats that help with fine tuning, but make sure you grab a level, set it on that tank base, and make sure that's dead on. So when it comes to maintenance, one of the things to consider outside of the time is also what is the relative location of the tank to the water source in your home. When you have to do a water change on a tank like this, if you were to even take that to 50%, that's 10 gallons, that's 80 pounds, that's 2 large buckets from a big box store that you are hauling to that tank. Now, the good news is there are ways around it. There are products that you can purchase that you can attach to your faucet that will run water, like a Python vacuum system. It will run water through a tube to your tank. You can also siphon the water out through a tube back into your sink. Those are options, but just keep in mind, where is the tank in location, in relative location to your water source? All right, so when it comes to putting your fish in the aquarium, don't be in a hurry. Keep your fish top of mind. Do your research on the nitrogen cycle and be patient. Don't overfeed your fish and don't overcrowd your tank, and I bet you're gonna have a great experience with your aquarium.